how do we balance these supposed conflicting rights? For the space industry, they argue that there is no hierarchy to space activities, right? That no one can say astronomy is more important than the internet, and everyone is free to explore space subject to the Outer Space Treaty. But as Article 1 of the Outer Space Treaty highlights, the freedom of outer space is subject to the condition that space be explored and used for the benefit and interest of all countries. So in this case, what is benefit and who gets to decide? And we really must promote dialogue to ensure that not only do space activities continue to be beneficial for all humanity, but that includes deciding when increased activity is not in the benefit of humanity. So on the other hand, there are others who are arguing that we should start thinking of space as an environment to be protected. So some space sustainability advocates argue that the environment of space has value itself, or intrinsic value, and faces a much greater risk of harm than individuals on Earth. So while the question of intrinsic rights of nature, like rivers and trees and the like, have now been given legal protection in some jurisdictions, the question of the protection of the space environment is finally making it to court.
Now, what we've seen over the last 50 years in particular is that a lot of things that humans assumed were commons have now become privatized effectively. So we have this issue of that we've been destroying commons, things that all humans assumed were theirs, have in fact been turned into commercial zones which belong to people. And in fact, we're now sort of doing that with space. We're closing off space to the ordinary human. In fact, what I fear is that we're building a sort of cage around the Earth. If it's going to be 250,000 satellites, as I think Ruth said is possible, or even 500,000 satellites, doesn't that effectively confine us to this planet, not only psychologically, but physically as well? We won't be able to fly through that barrier. I think there is something very important about the fact that humans look into the night sky and feel their own tininess and insignificance and the amazingness of the universe that we're part of. I would just want to say, let's not do to space what we've done to the oceans and to the great rainforests. Can't we just learn from those experiences and say, why don't we treat space like Antarctica? Why don't we say, it's a commons, we should share it, and we should make sure that it can be shared for a long time.
I know after this past year, many of us are impatient to resume life and business as usual. But let's keep in mind that the constituency for space is humanity itself, and that space is an ancestral global commons, not just a global commons, but an ancestral global commons for all of our shared practices, scientific, cultural. And this is a really radical perspective shift for us ahead of policies to move away from viewing time and space as a scarce commodity needing a lot of heavy management. And I want to honor my collaborators and my work with Indigenous communities who model the partnerships that I'd love to see unfold in our approach to space that include and integrate our many human identities and knowledge systems. And they have shown me the wisdom and great need for a relational, ethical approach to space rather than a transactional, extractive approach. Indigenous knowledge is inherently interdisciplinary, multi-generational, and integrative, expressed through sustainable practices. This isn't just a nice idea. We actually direly need this approach given the existential crossroads we're at. And the, realm of space agencies and billionaire investors exploring space, this is the heart of what makes us human. It isn't just the realm of these space agencies and private companies. All of our ancestors have been scientists and explorers, and it's the heart of what makes us human. And we have so much to learn from all traditions. So my respectfully offered thought is that we focus more on how we get there rather than being the first to get there, and that we ask who and what we are losing in gaining the stars in the current approach.